What if I told you that the most famous statue of deep thought in the world is not thinking about philosophy, not thinking about wisdom, not even thinking about truth? What if I told you that the thinker is actually sitting there, trapped in a moment that looks like wisdom, but might secretly represent something far more disturbing about you? Because every time you scroll past that image of the thinker, you probably assume he's deep in reflection. Calm. Wise. Enlightened. But here's the uncomfortable question nobody asks. What if he is not in control of his thoughts at all? What if he is the perfect picture of what your mind looks like when you are overwhelmed, overthinking, stressed, and silently breaking down while trying to look composed? Stay with this, because by the end of this video, you will not look at your thoughts the same way again. And more importantly, you will not look at your own mind the same way again. Now, before we go deeper, if you've ever felt trapped inside your own head, if you've ever overthought something until it ruined your peace, if you've ever replayed conversations, imagined worst-case scenarios, or felt mentally exhausted for no reason, then this video is for you. Like this video right now, share it with someone who overthinks too much, subscribe if you want more content like this, and comment, "I am the thinker," if you've ever felt stuck in your own mind. Now listen carefully. The thinker is not just a statue. He is a mirror. And what he reflects is the human condition. Let's go deeper. Imagine the scene. A man sits on a rock. His elbow rests on his knee. His head is buried in his hand. His muscles are tense. His back is curved like he is carrying something invisible but heavy. At first glance, it looks like wisdom. But if you look closer, it also looks like pressure. It looks like someone thinking too much. Someone carrying thoughts that refuse to stop. Someone who cannot escape their own mind. And this is where Stoic philosophy enters the story. Because the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, did not see thinking as something automatically wise. They saw thinking as something dangerous, if left uncontrolled. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But here is the twist most people miss. Having power over your mind does not mean your mind is always peaceful. It means your mind is always a battlefield. And the thinker is sitting right in the middle of that battlefield. Now imagine something for a moment. What if everything the thinker is thinking is not wisdom at all? What if it is regret? What if it is fear? What if it is every mistake he has ever made, replaying in silence? Because that is what your mind does when you are alone. It does not always give answers. Sometimes it gives accusations. Sometimes it shows you memories you wish you could delete. Sometimes it creates futures that never happen, just to scare you in advance. And that is the first illusion Stoicism destroys. Not all thinking is wisdom. Some thinking is suffering. And you have been confusing the two your entire life. Now stay with this thought. If the thinker could speak, what would he say? Would he say, "I am discovering truth"? Or would he say, "I cannot stop thinking"? There is a difference. A massive difference. Because one is control. The other is captivity. Most people today are not thinkers. They are overthinkers. They are trapped in loops of thoughts that go nowhere but still feel like motion. You think about what someone said to you. You think about what you should have said. You think about what might happen tomorrow. You think about things that may never happen at all. And yet your mind feels busy, so you assume you are productive. But Stoics would call this what it is: mental noise. Now let's go deeper into the statue itself. The thinker was originally part of a larger work called The Gates of Hell. Yes, hell. Not peace. Not enlightenment. Hell. And the thinker was originally meant to represent a man sitting above the gates, watching suffering below, reflecting on human struggle. But over time, society removed it from context and turned it into a symbol of intelligence. That is important, because that is exactly what humans do with their own thoughts. We remove them from context and assume they mean something profound. Not every thought is meaningful. Not every worry is insight. Not every mental loop is intelligence. Sometimes it is just pain repeating itself. Now let's bring this closer to you. Think about the last time you could not sleep. Your body was tired, but your mind was awake. And it was not thinking about solutions. It was replaying problems. It was predicting disasters. It was building conversations that never happened. That version of you, in bed at 2 a.m., is the thinker. But without the sculpture. Without the beauty. Without the meaning we attach to it. Just raw mental noise. Now here is where Stoicism cuts through everything like a blade. Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgment about things." Read that again slowly. Because this means something shocking. Your thoughts are not reality. They are interpretations. And most of your suffering comes from believing every interpretation your mind produces. Now imagine if the thinker suddenly stopped thinking. Just for a moment. No fear. No regret. No future. No past. Just awareness. What would remain? Peace. Not because life is perfect, but because the mind has stopped attacking itself. This is what Stoics train for. Not to eliminate thought, but to stop being enslaved by thought. And this is where your life changes if you really understand this. Because right now, you are probably treating your mind like a truth machine. If you think it, you believe it. If you feel it, you assume it is real. If you worry about it, you assume it must be important. But your mind is not a truth machine. It is a prediction machine. And it is often wrong. Let that sink in. Now let's go even deeper. Imagine the thinker is not one man. Imagine he is you. Sitting in silence after a long day. Phone away. Lights low. And your mind starts talking. You are behind. You should be doing more. You are not where you are supposed to be. And you listen. Not because it is true, but because it is loud. Stoicism teaches you a radical skill here. You do not have to answer every thought. Some thoughts are just visitors. Not instructions. Not truth. Just noise passing through. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Now translate that into modern life. The insult you received? Not pain. Your interpretation of it. The failure you experienced? Not identity. Just an event. The uncertainty about your future? Not reality. Just imagination. But your mind blends all of this together until you cannot tell the difference anymore. And that is how the thinker becomes trapped. Not by chains, but by thoughts. Now listen carefully, because this is the turning point. What if the real question is not, what is the thinker thinking about? But instead, why does he believe he must keep thinking? Because here is a truth you may not want to hear. Not all thinking is necessary. Some of it is avoidance. You think, so you don't act. You analyze, so you don't decide. You worry, so you don't risk. You imagine problems, so you don't face reality. And slowly, thinking becomes a substitute for living. That is the hidden trap. And Stoicism exists to break it. Epictetus said something brutal but freeing. No man is free who is not master of himself. Now think about that. If your thoughts control you, are you free? Or are you reacting? Now let's shift the scene. Imagine the thinker slowly lifting his head. For the first time. He is still thinking. But something is different. He is observing his thoughts instead of drowning in them. This is the Stoic shift. From identification to observation. From I am my thoughts to I am aware of my thoughts. That single shift changes everything. Because once you see thoughts as objects, they lose their power to define you. Now you are no longer inside the storm. You are watching it. And storms only destroy what is inside them, not what watches from outside. Now here is something even more important. The modern world is designed to turn you into the thinker, permanently. Notifications. Pressure, comparison, social media, constant information. You are never allowed to just exist. You are always prompted to think, to react, to compare, to worry, to plan, to scroll, to judge your life against someone else's highlight reel. And your mind never gets silence. But Stoics knew something you are forgetting. A disturbed mind cannot see clearly. And clarity is power. Now imagine this. If the thinker represents the modern mind, then silence is rebellion. When you stop feeding every thought, you regain control. When you stop reacting instantly, you regain freedom. When you pause before believing your thoughts, you regain yourself. Now let's bring this to a personal level. Think about one problem in your life right now. Just one. Now notice how your mind is already trying to solve it while also amplifying it. That is the trap. The mind tries to fix what it is also exaggerating. Stoicism breaks this loop by asking one question. Is this within my control? If yes, act. If no, release it. Simple. But not easy. Because the thinker inside you does not want simplicity. He wants control. Even if it costs peace. Now imagine the thinker again. But this time, he is not suffering. He is still. Not because life is solved, but because he has stopped arguing with reality. That is Stoic peace. Not absence of problems, but absence of internal resistance. And here is where everything becomes clear. The thinker was never meant to represent wisdom alone. He represents the weight of being human. The tension between thought and peace. Between control and surrender. Between noise and silence. And now the final question becomes yours. When you are alone with your thoughts, are you the master of your mind? Or are you the one being observed by it? Because if you are honest, you already know the answer. But Stoicism does not end with awareness. It ends with action. So the next time your mind begins to spiral, do not fight it. Do not obey it. Observe it. And then choose. Because freedom is not the absence of thought. It is the ability to not be ruled by it. Now imagine the thinker one last time. Same pose. Same silence. But different meaning. Not trapped. Not drowning. Just aware. And for the first time, in control. If this message made you reflect even a little, don't ignore it. Like this video, share it with someone who overthinks too much. Subscribe for more Stoic wisdom, and comment below. I choose silence. If you are ready to stop being controlled by your thoughts. Because the truth is simple. You were never meant to become your thoughts. You were meant to see them, and still remain free. Now imagine something strange. What if everything we just discussed was not about a statue at all? What if it was about you the entire time? Because the moment you understand the thinker, you start to realize something uncomfortable. You have been sitting in that same position for years. Not physically, but mentally. Same hand on your forehead. Same weight on your thoughts. Same silent pressure inside your mind that never really turns off, even when everything around you looks fine. And here is the part most people never admit. You are not tired because life is hard. You are tired because your mind never stops. Even when nothing is happening, your thoughts are still running. Even when you are resting, your mind is working overtime. Even when the world is quiet, your inner world is loud. That is the thinker's real condition. Now let's go deeper into something Stoicism forces you to face. There is a difference between thinking and being trapped in thought. One builds clarity. The other destroys peace. And most people never learn the difference. That is why Stoics like Marcus Aurelius constantly wrote reminders to themselves, like someone trying to wake up from mental sleep. You have power over your mind, not outside events. But here is what that really means in your real life. It means your biggest battles will never happen outside of you. They happen in silence. When nobody is watching. When no one is talking to you. When it is just you and your thoughts. That is where the thinker lives. Now I want you to imagine something very personal. Picture yourself sitting alone after a long day. No distractions. No phone. No noise. And suddenly, your mind starts speaking. Not one voice. Many voices. One says, "You are not doing enough." Another says, "You are falling behind." Another reminds you of a mistake from years ago. Another creates a future that has not even happened yet, but already feels real. And you sit there listening. Not because you want to, but because you think you have to. This is the trap. The illusion that every thought deserves attention. But Stoicism breaks this illusion completely. Because Epictetus teaches something radical. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgment about things. So ask yourself honestly, is your suffering coming from your life? Or from your interpretation of your life? Because if it is interpretation, then it is editable. Not permanent. Not absolute. Not final. Now here is where everything changes. The thinker is not suffering because he is thinking. He is suffering because he believes every thought matters. That is the real prison. Not thoughts themselves, but attachment to them. Now imagine one final transformation. You are still sitting like the thinker. Same posture. Same silence. But something inside you changes. A thought appears, and you notice it. Then another thought appears, and you notice that too. But you do not follow them. You do not argue with them. You do not become them. You simply watch them rise and fall, like waves. This is the Stoic shift. From possession to observation. From, "This is me thinking," to, "This is thinking happening." And that one shift changes your entire inner world. Because once you stop identifying with every thought, you stop suffering from every thought. Now listen carefully, because this is where the message becomes real. Most of your mental pain is not created by your life. It is created by your resistance to your life. You want things to be different. You want the past to change. You want the future to be certain. You want people to behave differently. You want yourself to be different. And in that resistance, peace disappears. Stoicism does not teach you to stop caring. It teaches you to stop fighting reality in your mind. Because reality does not break when you resist it. You do. Now think about the thinker one last time. He is no longer just a statue. He is a warning. And also a guide. A warning about what happens when the mind turns inward without direction. But also a guide showing what happens when awareness finally wakes up. Because the same mind that traps you can also free you. The same thoughts that create anxiety can also create clarity. The difference is not the thoughts. It is your relationship to them. And that is the final Stoic lesson. Mastery is not silence of the mind. Mastery is not control of every thought. Mastery is distance, space, awareness. So the next time your mind becomes loud, do not panic. Do not believe everything it says. Just step back mentally and say, "I see you." And in that moment, you are no longer the thinker. You are the one observing the thinker. And that changes everything. Now, as we reach the end, I want you to sit with one final question. If you are not your thoughts, then who are you underneath them? Not the fear. Not the memory. Not the noise. Not the overthinking. But the awareness that notices all of it. That is the part of you Stoicism has been pointing toward the entire time. And it has always been there. Quiet. Unmoving. Present. Waiting for you to notice it. So here is your final takeaway. You will not win against your thoughts by fighting them. You will not find peace by controlling every mental movement. You will find peace by no longer being controlled by them. And that is what the thinker truly represents at its deepest level. Not just a man lost in thought, but a reminder that every human being has the power to step outside of thought itself and see clearly again. Now, if this message reached you on a deeper level than you expected, do not let it end here. Like this video if you felt it. Share it with someone who overthinks too much. Subscribe for more Stoic wisdom that actually changes how you think and live. And comment below. My mind is not my master. Because the moment you say that and mean it, you stop being a prisoner of your thoughts and start becoming the one who observes them. And that is where real freedom begins.